Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another Kamihime project video. First and foremost, I have to address the elephant in the room because this is something that I've noticed, but it seems that we've been getting less and less time in between events. For instance, the event that's currently going on came immediately after the Medusa reprint. This event I'm about to talk about is coming immediately after the event that's currently going on, which, I don't really know how to pronounce her name. I just know she's a light Idol and a very good one. But this event's coming right after it, and it's literally no breaks. It's like one ends and the other immediately begins. No wait time or anything. So it's getting a little bit demanding in order to do some of that stuff. So I'm going to try and get this video up and early before it starts. But anyways, this is going to be the start of the new Union events. So what I mean by that is the fact that you will not ever see a Lilum ever again, as far as anybody knows. So if you did not get the Lilum Eidolons, you've missed out. So you didn't really miss too much with the Eidolons, but you missed out on quite a lot of weapons. So that's the biggest thing with that one. It's more or less geared towards the weapons with these events, as far as I can tell, and that's especially true in this because, first and foremost, we do not get any Eidolons. Yeah, this is the first event where we do not get any Eidolons. Well, the first event where we can grind for stuff anyways. But, yeah, apparently no Eidolons. That's what's throwing me off a little bit. Second, in order to replace that, we do manage to get some pretty good weapons, depending on what you need and how you use them. And they did rework a lot of stuff here, so that's the thing about this. First and foremost, since this is indeed a union event, you need to join a union, and an active one, as soon as possible. When you see this video, immediately try to jump into another one. Honestly, it may or may not be too late, but you do have to leave your union before this event starts. Once it starts, you cannot. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're familiar with the demon events, a lot of the mechanics are the same. That's something you should know. Only this time we get something called Holy Crosses, but they more or less work like Grail buffs. Only the buffs themselves have changed, so I have to go through the list of applied effects. Now, this one specifically, it says that the assault is the same. It may or may not be true. Because as far as I can tell from the other ones, the assault was not the same. Later ones have higher amounts of assault. And going by them, if it is true, the assault has now become 1.5% per level, just like the burst damage. And given how assault and defender is similar, my assumption is that defender will also be the same, even though it's never been confirmed. So that said, apparently assault, burst, defender, and healing all have 1.5% per level, so they all max out at 150%. This means that assault and defender's gotten buffed. What's also been buffed but not confirmed is double attack and triple attack, along with the effect resistance, meaning that your resistance towards debuffs. These have all been increased. We just don't know about how much. What has gotten decreased is your chances of laying down some debuffs. Apparently that buff has gotten reduced, and with obvious good reason too. I'll get into that a little bit later. But that's been reduced. The things that ended up being the same is the burst damage and the healing amount, because it seems like those are fine as is. In fact, for anybody that uses soul, if healing is max buffed, then and you're using a weakened soul, you have max ascension that way. You just use soul's debuff in order to buff the team's healing amount, and then you got max ascension. But same rules apply though. Only up to level 100 for each one, and only 400 total at one given time. So that said, my suggestions are still more or less the same. Focus on the soul, especially now that it's been buffed. Focus on burst damage, focus on combo rates, and focus on defender. The other three are more or less negligible, especially considering the fact that recovery can be built up by ascension, making it kind of useless. You don't really ever need the debuff chance increase, even if you're doing that strategy. And the resistance, it's never really worth the resistance. Just flat out get some Kamihime that can protect you against it if you need to. But what I mean by that strategy, I don't know if it's going to happen with this one. It is indeed confirmed for the ones after it. But apparently, the Seraphs will have more debuff resistance because of the strategy that a lot of people were using before. That strategy is to take Kamihime that can cause a paralyze effect and span them back to back between your union members. This, done correctly, will not let the boss get a single turn. So that's why this has gotten a bit of a nerf. They want you to actually fight the bosses this time. So my suggestion to you, if you can pull it off, so be it. If you can't, don't worry about it. But anyways, same drill as before. There's going to be a weaker one and a stronger one. The patterns are going to be a little bit different though. So going into this, the Seraph themselves are pretty much like split. The weaker one has got standard and expert. It is 700,000 HP on standard, 2.5 million HP basically on expert. And the deal with these is the fact that they will have triggers regardless of whether or not you're in raging or normal. So you have to keep them in stun if you want to avoid these triggers. Now it says damage to everyone when your HP is 50% or higher whenever you're attacking, and then it's going to randomly do it twice when it's lower than 50%. So that means every turn you hit them, it's going to have these effects. And then when it has full orbs, it will give itself an attack buff, unless it's enraging, where it's 2 attack buffs. Now, I don't get what it means by exclusive. My guess is it probably won't get removed. But at the same time, just keep in mind that it will be buffing itself and it will be hitting people a lot. So be very, very wary of that one. It seems like it's never going to combo, ever. It will just avoid using normal attacks unless it's in stun, and just start nuking everybody or 2 people. If it does a double nuke, it's going to hit you pretty hard. So be very, very careful of that when you're trying to grind these grails. Now, for the main boss itself, same drills before, expert, ultimate. They both get stronger. Like, both versions of the fight get stronger whenever you kill it. So it's that same setup. What's different is the HP values. This time it is 500,000 HP as a base, and then 150,000 per level on expert. For ultimate, it's double those amounts. So it starts off at 1 million and gets another 300,000 each time it's a level. Level 1 does count in the formula, so it's going to start with 650,000 HP on expert and start with 1.3 million on ultimate. And it will get harder and harder every time you kill it until it resets after the day. Now then, starting off, whenever it says charge to yourself, it will deal damage to everybody. I don't necessarily know what that means. But it's definitely related to the normal and raging buffs, looking at this. But I'll explain the normal raging buffs in a second. The bigger one is definitely this ability burst seal. If I'm correct, it's going to seal off all ability and burst usage for 3 turns. And then it's also going to set its charge count to 1 point less than the max whenever its HP hits half. So, say it has no orbs, it's going to immediately get 2. Now, I don't know if that means if it has full orbs, it will sit up and reduce it by 1. Or maybe it will do its turn and then go right back up to 2. I don't know that for sure, but that's what it sounds like. Like, regardless of what happens, it's going to set itself to 2, so just assume it for now. The whole charge thing apparently is a self-buff mechanic or something like that. And both the normal and the raging will apply to itself for 2 turns. But the normal one is going to deal a lot of damage to one person. And then the raging one is completely different. Because it seems like it'll randomly hit an enemy and then charge itself, but deal more damage. If I'm looking at this right. It's kind of weird to read this because of the way that some wikis translate, so sorry about that, but more or less, whenever it nukes for normal raging, expect another nuke to happen right after. So if you can remove buffs, you're very good for that one. But you can't remove buffs forever, so expect to get double tapped. That's the best way to put it. You will get double hit. And then it says right here, whenever it tries to seal your abilities and bursts, the success rate is at least 50%. So be very wary of that. If you have somebody that can prevent debuffs, that's the time to use it. But more or less, you want to have some control over buffs on these enemies because they both seem to be rooted along that. Now then, when it comes to achievements and whatnot, same thing more or less. You try to get ultimate kills, expert kills, you try to get participation points, and then you try to get a union grouped amount of participation points. Now, from what I've heard, only the Seraph, as in the big boss, will contribute participation points towards the union. This has always been the case. Me personally, I always thought it was a little bit different, but either way, you should be killing the ultimate and the expert fights anyway, so it's not really that much of an issue. If you really try to ground out the entire event, you probably get that on your own, so there's that. But yeah, the Seraph one is towards expert and ultimate. That one will count towards the union participation points. The other one will just count towards your personal achievement. But anyways, there's a lot of stuff we can get from here. And according to this list, it says it outright gives you Phantom Beast orbs. So I guess that's our replacement to not getting the Eidolons. So it'll give us flat out orbs. If I'm looking at this correctly, it is giving us a lot of orbs too. Yeah, because there's 400, there's another 400, another 400, yet another 400. So it's giving us at least 2,000. Which is exceptionally generous, by the way, because normally you would get maybe 750 from an event if you sold off the Eidolons. So that said, you can get a lot of Phantom Orb. I mean, Phantom Beast orbs. In other words, Eidolon orbs, as we call them. Considering that they're all going to pop up before you get all the weapons, you'll probably get these. Even then, try your hardest to get that. It's definitely worth it. Now, the rankings are still more or less the same. So, there's the top prizes. If you really want to look at that, I'm not going to go over too much. All I can say is this. For best results, plan a day where you can do nothing but expert kills with your union. Do another day where it's nothing but ultimate kills, and one of those 2 days try to get as much participation points as possible. Probably from the ultimate one, because the more HP, the more participation points are to go around. I forgot the exact amount of participation points times HP, but there's a certain way to get it. I don't know if it says it here, but it's fine either way. Now then, let's get to the weapons. First and foremost, every single weapon has one skill. I'm getting that out the way right now. Every weapon has one skill. But there's a catch. Well, the SR is more or less the same. So get that Assault or Defender if you need it, or if you're trying to go for a Phantom Grid. Especially the case in the SR gun, because if you can get a Phantom Grid with water, which is very, very easy to do if you kept the copies of the Shark Gun separate, you can actually make a Phantom Grid for SR with just SR guns alone and get a lot of Defender. I mean, that's if you want to do it that way. The Spear, more or less, also comes with Assault too, so the SR Spear can help towards that a bit more. They're good placeholders if need be. Here's where things get interesting. The SSR weapons. Both of them come with a final break limit. What that means is that since it's only one skill, that one skill gets stronger. The catch is that the skill starts off as large, and then it eventually goes into extra large. So what this means is that it will go into a different type of tree that's above what we already know. So it will go into a 4th tier size effect, and long story short, it's 30% when you max it out all the way at final break limit. So these FLB weapons, for instance, will end up being a 30% assault and a 30% defender. And their stats are actually pretty high too, I've noticed. It's just the fact that the hammer tends to have as much assault as the staff, but more HP. Go figure. And then the hammer comes with a damage cut. Should you use it for a burst? That may or may not be good. I don't know. And the other one says water damage, so it's going to buff your water attack, I do believe. But anyways, if you're going to need any weapons, it's definitely one of these two. Especially in the assault department. That is 30% assault. That is very, very hard to come by. The only way to really get a flat 30% assault is with a Phantom Hammer. There's other weapons that can give you a huge boost too. I mean, I remember there being a final break limit Pride weapon, which is like a skill level 15 Pride for both small and large. But getting this much assault in one weapon is hard to come by. And this is not Pride, this is flat assault. So it's not going to randomize. So that said, if you are to keep any one weapon, it is definitely the assault weapon, especially considering the fact that I found out that later down the line, we'll get access to even more water ones. Same case with fire, so they'll end up getting 2. That means if you do it right, you can get 60% assault and 60% defender out of just 4 weapons for fire or water. It's insane. So, depending on what you may or may not need, these can be pretty strong, but at least try to keep the assault weapons, because that's a lot in one setting. Yeah, there's a lot of cases where you can say 2 skills are better than 1, but this is one very hard argument to disprove. So it's worth keeping, no matter what. But anyways, that's all for this. I'm kind of interested to see how some of this stuff goes, considering that we don't get Eidolons. which kind of sucks too, because me personally, I think the Seraphs actually were pretty good. Like, I would love to see scenes with these two. Unfortunately, they don't get any. So, yeah. And also, if you're working on water teams too, there's also water accessories that pop out. A little bit extra help for grinding, but honestly, if you're able to clear accessory quest rank 6 or even better rank 7, you probably don't need to worry about these accessories. Just saying. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this is going to come soon, and take care.